It is the Pete Souza Show. We are live here from the Alico building in Central Texas. A little bit of a slate start this morning or this afternoon. Some activity going on here audio-wise that we have cleared up, obviously. Presented by Savachix. Thank you so much to Mr. Ray Broker. Of course, you got to thank my man Gordon Harriman, too. Crawford Austin Properties and our friends at D1 Daniel Stark. And First National Bank of Central Texas. Speaking of which, Dan Ingham is coming on in segment 3 to join us. And segment 2, we got Terrence Ganaway, former Baylor football star, first team All Big 12. And one thing that I love about Terrence and always have is that he's the nephew of Jeremiah Trotter. And growing up an Eagles fan, being from Philadelphia, Trotter was the heartbeat of the Eagles. When the Eagles, before they got really good, they 99 especially, they were particularly terrible. And Jeremiah Trotter was a rookie that year out of Stephen F. Austin, and he was just a menace right away. So I love Jeremiah Trotter. And I can't wait to talk to Terrence Ganaway. I want to talk to Terrence a little bit about the transfer portal. And I want to get his take on something going on right now that I'm going to comment on. Bill Belichick being officially named the head coach at North Carolina. So I've been doing like some internet sleuthing more and more. Like that's the version of reporting a lot of people do today. So interesting articles I came across. Also talked to Matt Mosley this morning. Mosley and I spoke for his Obstructed View podcast. You can catch here on the Rogue Media Network. You can also catch Mosley and Ed Werder doing the Doomsday Pod. But Matt and I were talking about Bill Belichick and going to the NFL. And Matt had shed light on something that I had heard whispers about, but now it seems like it's becoming more and more prominent as far as a storyline here, is that Bill Belichick had, I guess, was up against it as far as getting a job coaching in the NFL, like he was not going to. And the connections that Bill Belichick has go far and wide all over the world, let alone in pro sports and the NFL specifically. So certainly Bill Belichick has an agent, and he certainly has a lot of people that he trusts that gather information for him on his behalf or even do it quietly. And apparently, like, a lot of the shock for me, I could just speak for myself, is that, like, why is one of the greatest football coaches of all time, who is a handful or more wins away from being the all-time winningest coach in the NFL, taking a job at a program that has been just covered in apathy over the past several years? North Carolina, no offense to Mac Brown, but in North Carolina football, they haven't won an ACC championship since 1980. I learned that just reading stuff. And North Carolina is a great place to go to school and a big-time football program, but just no place you would ever imagine Bill Belichick would end up. Report today in the New York Post, actually report today in The Athletic, talked about NFL executives going, of course, not on the record, or should I say anonymously going on the record. Is that going on the record? I don't even know. But an anonymous sources in NFL front offices, executives, said that Belichick had and his people had done some, obviously, due diligence, research, reaching out to people, and it had been brought to their attention that, first of all, the Bears was a job that he was interested in right away after Matt Eberflus got fired. It was conveyed, this is according to this report in The Athletic, that the Bears were looking for more of an offensive-minded coach, that somebody who could jive with Caleb Williams. And that would make sense coming off the Matt Eberflus situation because he is a defensive guy. Even I thought that, too, with Eberflus, like, wow, it might be a little better or advantageous for them to have an offensive-minded head coach. Of course, I didn't think about any of this till after he had gotten fired. So anyways, apparently the Bears were out. Other organizations, he had heard that the Jets was like a no because of his history with the organization. And he had gone on record just recently saying some negative stuff about Woody Johnson. I'm surprised in this article they don't mention the Giants, which I still think I can't imagine the Giants are going to keep their head coach, Brian Daboll, but maybe they will. So one quote was, a team that is currently seeking a head coach had already ruled out the idea of interviewing Belichick. So the executive goes on to say that, oh, and let me read this last quote too. Although it remains to be seen if other opportunities will emerge, like a head coaching opportunities. The Jaguars 3-10 and the Raiders 2-11 as possibilities. And here's the quote: sources with a couple of other teams with the potential head coaching vacancies didn't believe there'd be enough support within the building to hire Belichick. So that's like the Giants, right? And this is like, sports can mirror life, and always remember treating people the right way. And I'm not saying Bill Belichick was like a bad guy. He's not. By all accounts, he's a good man. But he clearly hardened over the years as the head coach. 25 years he spent with the Patriots organization. And, he was the man in charge. And to be the man in charge of an organization like that, certainly takes an ego. And when an ego gets involved, sometimes people feel like they get treated the wrong way. People outside of your circle, maybe people in the media, maybe even people within the building, maybe the owner of the team, like Robert Kraft. And as much as Robert Kraft is having a real tough time getting into the NFL Hall of Fame, he still has quite the platform and relationships with NFL owners and folks in the NFL. And I'm starting to believe now, I don't want to say there's any kind of smear campaign that Bill Belichick is up against. But so think about it. Last year, when he didn't get hired, that was like, really? Like, I can't even tell you who the head coach of the Panthers is right now. And maybe he's going to be, the next Mike Holmgren, because I know he's like an offensive guy. Maybe he's the next, amazing offensive coach, because that's what he is. I forget his name. It doesn't even matter. But that's the point, right? That was an opening that was filled. And other jobs, Atlanta, I was like, wow, Arthur Blank was like, no way. Apparently that he, it was an ownership thing, like Blank, because Arthur Blank likes kind of, as most owners do, they like kind of being in the mix. So it became clear, or should have been clearer to somebody like me last offseason when he didn't get hired, that there was something seriously dysfunctional about this whole situation. And the dysfunction comes back to, apparently, according to this article, and according to talking to Matt Mosley today, and Mosley talking to people around the NFL that he knows, it's not as out of left field as you would think, because, and again, I even hate to use the term burned bridges, but because that's even a little dramatic, but Bill Belichick runs an organization a certain way, and that way commands a lot of control. And people don't want to give up control. They just don't. And if you look at the end of the Patriots situation, especially the draft, it was not a favorable situation for Bill Belichick, not only because he was the head coach, but most importantly, because he was the guy running the draft. There were a lot of picks that didn't pan out, and a lot of picks that people from Jump Street pointed out the fact that this is not going to pan out, and they didn't. And especially, like I said, over the last several years, the Patriots didn't win a playoff game. I think 2018 was the last time they won a playoff game before he left the organization last year in 2023. I can remember they were playing, I think it was the Jags, on a Saturday night playoff game in 2019. And I remember Brady, it was his last pass for the Patriots, threw an interception that was taken in for a touchdown. Or maybe it wasn't the Jaguar. I think it was. Either way. So they lost a wild card playoff game at home. And that was kind of like, it felt like the beginning of the end. And obviously it was. So behavior, again, is like something that always comes into play. Like it or not, you can be so good at your job. You can be the best of all time. But if you're going to have issues in relationships with people, you have to almost be unblemished as a coach to continue to get opportunities. Bill Parcells is a similar type of coach. And, I don't know that he was denied jobs. I know obviously the Cowboys was his last stop, and then into front offices with the Dolphins. I know when Sean Payton was suspended for a year, he was really, really heavy on, he wanted Bill Parcells to coach the Saints for him to fill in for a year. And that was like very close to happening, but ultimately did not happen. But so I don't know if the league has softened per se, or owners expect more control, or there's a lot more to the situation about how Bill Belichick treated people that we don't know about. But I think the bottom line is we're sitting here today talking about Bill Belichick being the head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels because he didn't have the best relationship with the owner. You could say the quarterback. I mean, somebody could say Tom Brady left because of a relationship with Bill Belichick or lack thereof. And so that's not exactly like unblemished, right? Like when you look at that, if you're thinking about hiring this guy, you're like, well, okay, so he's going to be a huge pain in my ass. And it's not like he's coming off a Super Bowl. In fact, he hasn't won a playoff game. He didn't in the last 4 years he was in the NFL. So maybe it makes a little more sense, now that you get a chance to take a beat, take a breath, and understand, okay, well, maybe this is why this happened. And it was some of the other, so his girlfriend, I give this girl credit, Jordan. I don't know her last name. Maybe it's Jordan Hudson. So she tweeted or put on Instagram, on to Chapel Hill or on to North Carolina. I'm starting to soften on this relationship. One, because, ultimately, like I'm just kind of over it. Yesterday, I was pretty upset. I still am bummed. I love Bill Belichick. I just don't want him to become irrelevant. I do not want that to happen. Not when he still has good years left, and what he can give a big time organization. But whatever, who cares? I mean, like, why do I get upset about that? And his girlfriend, I do have to back off a little bit. I was saying, oh, like this is what happens when you meet you have a new girlfriend, and because it's true, right? Like, especially dudes like maybe, I mean, with Bill Belichick, like he would tell you, like he's on the back nine, right? He's 72. But like a midlife crisis, you meet a new girl, you start doing crazy stuff like wearing leather and riding a motorcycle, and all kinds of crazy stuff. Anyways, she was not behind this decision. If she was, whatever. I guess they've been together since like 2022. So whatever. What are you going to do? I'm kind of bummed Bill Belichick is not going to be the next head coach of the Cowboys or the Giants or be on, Pat McAfee. I will say this, when I raise the finger, I have something major coming at you. I think that if I was him, I would still try to go on McAfee and I would still try to do the Manning cast and stuff like that. I think he probably would be well served by doing that. And maybe he will. A guy who we can talk to about all this is Terrence Ganaway, and he's coming up next. I cannot wait. The Pete Souza Show, powered by the Rogue Media Network, presented by Slovaceks. We'll be right back. It's the Pete